So, Monday was my birthday, and I got an unexpected surprise. So now I got a chewed up right hand, or left hand, so I don't suspect I'll be doing real great today on the match. There's not much to say, not too much happening that I could think of. So they wrapped me all up, put me on a course of antibiotics for the next 7 days. So we'll see how that goes. Win one match. I could probably do that in CTF even with a bad arm. So I'm going to go through match and then bring in some secondary commentary from people, and I'll put their names and stuff for their YouTube or BitChute addresses in the bottom or in the video like I usually do. Not too much to be said about that. I guess the Fed's finally admitting that we're in a recession. Fact is, we're technically in a depression. And I'm back to fasting 5 days a week now instead of only 3. Because I gained 3 pounds from birthday cake and stuff. Gained 3 extra pounds, so I gotta get rid of that. I need to get rid of all of it. I need to get down to about 240, 230, 240, but man, that's like 60 pounds to go. The first couple hundred was easy compared to the last 60. And I'm trying my best to walk every day and keep moving. But it just isn't coming off even with the fasting. I don't know what to do. I was thinking about maybe going back and trying to go back and eat a little bit more each day, just to like 1,000 calories a day or something. But I don't do enough exercise. I don't get out enough to do enough exercise for that to work. So I'm better off just fasting. No, Dino, you can't.
Hey, Internet friends. I've seen several news agencies report that the U.S. flag at the top of the Senate building at the U.S. Capitol was being flown upside down today, 3/4 of the way up the pole. According to the U.S. flag code, the American flag should never be flown upside down with the stars at the bottom except as a signal of dire distress in instances of extreme danger to life or property. Some folks are saying that this was an accident, that someone strung up the flag on accident upside down. And yeah, maybe the guy changing out the flag at your local Denny's would fall prey to accidents like that. No hate to the guy at Denny's, but everything is intentional in Washington, D.C. and for display on the world stage. Some of the people who reported the upside-down flag first, circulating this photo, were Jake Sherman of MSNBC and Punchbowl News, the Insider Paper, Raw News Alerts, political commentator and attorney Rogan O'Hanley, Citizen Free Press, these were just a few, I'm listing these out for origin and documentation purposes just so we have some data points for this video, because some people are saying that the photo is photoshopped. Some people are saying that it's fake. And yeah, if you check out a live stream of the Senate building right now, it appears the flag is flying upright. But one thing is for sure, this photo was leaked purposefully and circulated by major news accounts for a very specific reason. I have a feeling whoever raised this flag this morning knew exactly what they were doing and were signaling something, but now it's been fixed quietly and hastily. We're a country being attacked from within, attacked on all fronts. We have traitorous legislators and alphabet agencies who work for families, bloodlines, and corporate fronts, not for the benefit of our nation and its citizens. We have a currency backed by nothing and a system of debt slavery implemented by a parasitic organization who took over our country officially in 1913. But here's a breakdown of what I'm seeing in the last few weeks leading up to today. Millions of illegal migrants are bum rushing the border, not limited to folks from South America, but also I'm seeing Haiti and China too. Not women and children and families seeking asylum, but military-aged men, so one can safely assume that someone or some entity is flying these men out of Haiti, out of China, and parking them there at the Mexican-U.S. border in preparation for the expiration of Title 42. A country is nothing without its borders. It's why the Chinese built the Great Wall as defensive fortification. It's why invading barbarian groups eventually led to the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Also, in the last 48 hours, a viral video of a huge explosion in Western Ukraine has been shared all over social media with unverified claims that depleted uranium storage facility was hit and reports that radiation levels were rising in the aftermath of the strike, which fact checkers have come out in droves to dismiss as false because that would mean there's a nuclear war taking place in Ukraine as of 48 hours ago. Either way, I'm sure more U.S. taxpayer dollars are being funneled to Ukraine to make up for the explosion. And it's looking like, with the way things are going, everything could pop off into an all-out war with Russia at any time. Also going on right now, and we've been talking about this on my channel, countries around the world have started an irreversible process of breaking away from the U.S. dollar. A reported 41 additional nations have joined the BRICS coalition in addition to China and Russia, which intends to trade in another currency besides the petrodollar. BRICS represents the economically aligned nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they're discussing the launch of a global currency that does not utilize the U.S. dollar. So if countries by and large stop using the U.S. dollar for this trade, that means the value of the U.S. dollar will go down. It means the United States can no longer use the dollar as political leverage on the global stage, and it means the dollar, which most of us have worked our entire lives to attain, will be worthless. Anyways, sorry to drop this great news on you. I caught this news in the middle of recording some other videos, so I'll get back to that now, but I really want to know. What do you think is going on here? Is this an accident or is it intentional? Let me know. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, supporting my channel on Patreon, and buying my book, The Deep State Encyclopedia. Bye!
As illustrated in RFK Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, AIDS and AZT was Fauci's first official go at state-sponsored depopulation. Celia Farber writes that Peter Staley is the most iconic AIDS activist in the world, and that he was the guy who made AZT happen. The well-hyped media story goes something like this. Young gay activist Peter Staley came out as a homosexual in 1985 and inspired his older brother, Jess Staley, to join him in the fight against AIDS, which for them meant demanding more drugs, faster drugs, and cheaper drugs from Big Pharma. While posing as the voice of the downtrodden LGBTQ consumer, with the almighty support of the mainstream media behind them, the two brothers demanded that Big Pharma put speed ahead of safety and efficacy. This campaign directly resulted in the rapid FDA approval of AZT in 1989. Big profits were made, shortcuts were taken, and AZT killed thousands. Jess Staley worked for J.P. Morgan Chase and became a pioneer of woke LGBTQ banking. And after 30 years at J.P. Morgan and 9 years as CEO of Barclays Bank in the UK, he resigned last year after an investigation into his ties with Jeffrey Epstein was launched as part of a U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit. According to the lawsuit, J.P. Morgan knowingly, negligently, and unlawfully provided and pulled the levers through which recruiters and victims were paid, and was indispensable to the operation and concealment of the Epstein trafficking enterprise. Human trafficking was the principal business of the accounts Epstein maintained at J.P. Morgan. Jess Staley exchanged several hundreds of emails with Jeffrey Epstein, some of them coded like the infamous Pizzagate emails. Staley to Epstein, "Say hi to Snow White for me." Epstein to Staley, "What character would you like next?" Staley, "Beauty and the Beast." Jess Staley is accused of forcibly and violently raping one of the victims, and is said to have told her that Jeffrey Epstein authorized him to do whatever he wanted to her. Jess Staley was set to take over for Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, who some believe will be charged with criminal conspiracy for his service to Jeffrey Epstein's child sex trafficking operations. A New York federal judge threatened J.P. Morgan Chase with contempt of court if it does not speed up in producing evidence related to Jeffrey Epstein. Jamie Dimon is scheduled to be questioned under oath later this month on his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Throwing gas on the fire, 19 Republican states just accused J.P. Morgan of closing bank accounts on political or religious grounds. In a letter to CEO Jamie Dimon, J.P. Morgan Bank is accused of canceling major organizations' checking accounts and then screening them with questions focused on religion and politics before reinstating them. The Federal Reserve Bank is not federal, and it holds no reserves. It is a private bank owned by its member banks, and overall owned by the same big banks deemed too big to fail, like J.P. Morgan Chase. So when the CBDCs come to supposedly save the day, remember that these banks are run by child rapists and human traffickers. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese. Thank you for watching the latest Greg Reese Report. Be sure to go to reesereport.com to see my latest videos, sign up for my free newsletter, and subscribe for exclusive content. And be sure to support my sponsor at InfoWarsStore.com. In the early 1900s, certain companies were off-gassing highly toxic fluoride gases into the atmosphere. The surrounding communities began to get sick. Laws were enacted to compel these corporations to install scrubbers to convert these gases into fluorosilicic acid, still highly toxic but containable. Now these companies had a stockpile of this poison, and there was no affordable way to dispose of it. Lucky for them, one of their major stockholders was also the Secretary of the Treasury, who was responsible for the Public Health Service at the time. And by 1950, the U.S. government began buying this toxic, untreated industrial waste product and dumping it into our drinking water. Reputable studies show that it's causing various cancers and other disease. With the Alexa Pure Pro, you can have clean drinking water and a remedy to this madness. Available now at InfoWarsStore.com.
All right, now in this video, I want to share with you the details of a report that was released in conjunction to another report that was released out of the Social Security Board of Trustees and the truth about Social Security right now, as well as what they're now saying, as a lot of things have been released as of recently. Let's get into it and talk through all the details. Let's get into it and talk about these couple of reports, what they're now talking about, as well as what this means for Social Security as a whole and monthly benefits for millions upon millions of beneficiaries. Now, obviously, if you've been watching the videos here on the channel for any length of time now, I've been talking about this Social Security insolvency issue. So again, I want to talk through this because it wasn't that long ago that we got out the annual report out of the Social Security Board of Trustees. There's a lot of information in there. And again, this is the annual report. They come together once per year and they talk about the finances of Social Security, how much money is in the trust fund, when are they projecting an insolvency date, how much would they have to raise taxes or cut benefits if they decided to do that, all kinds of things like this. There's a lot of information out there. Let me tell you some details about this because they have a lot of information and yet again, they're talking about some different things as far as what they want to do to Social Security, how they want to reform these programs, and as well as a whole bunch of other things, okay? So let me talk you through the details about this. First up, I want to throw this out there. Last year, when we got this report out of the Social Security Board of Trustees, they said that the trust fund had $2.89 trillion. It's a lot of money, $2.89 trillion. Not billion, not million, not, cents, $2.89 trillion. That's a lot. However, this year, so 1 year later, they have now found that the Social Security Trust Fund has $2.7 trillion. So it dropped by, what is that, 190 billion? Am I saying that right? I think that's right. Yeah, 190 billion. Yeah. I had to second guess there for a second. It's like these numbers, sometimes they get a little bit confused when the numbers get really big, but that's a drop of $190 billion just in 1 year alone, right? So, wow, 2.7 trillion. Still, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money that they still have available, but we can see that the trust fund is dwindling down, by quite a bit of money every single year. However, here's what they're now talking about. So right now, the Social Security taxes, right? So Social Security payroll taxes are coming in at 12.6%, which is split by the employee and the employer, right? So the employee pays half, the employer pays the other half on the behalf of the employee, and they send those taxes into, obviously Social Security, and that money goes into the trust fund to pay for, obviously benefits for people, right? But here's what they're talking about. Just if they wanted to make sure that benefits are payable for the next 75 years for the current level of beneficiaries and, over the next, decade or whatever, when they're looking at insolvency, they would need to raise Social Security payroll taxes, not in a year, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, but right now today. If they wanted to maintain the same level of benefits for millions of beneficiaries at their current levels right now, as in, you want to get your same check right now going forward, and whatever it happens to be in the future because of the COLA and things like that, each and every year for the next decade, if they wanted to maintain the exact same level of benefits, they would immediately, right now, today, this year, they would need to increase Social Security payroll taxes from 12.6% up to 15.84%. That's what they would have to do right now today in order to maintain the same level of benefits. However, here's what they also found. If they do not act on this, as in if they do not raise Social Security payroll taxes today, the more that they delay, the more that they will need to continue raising income taxes, as in Social Security payroll taxes, in order to actually make sure that this program remains solvent for the next 75 years into the future. Let's just say that they delay by 10 years, okay? So 10 years from now, right now, they don't do anything, okay? So we arrive at the date where possibly we're looking at insolvency. Now, they would need to raise Social Security payroll taxes by 16.55%. So that's where Social Security payroll taxes would need to be, is 16.55% if they wait on this. So basically what they're doing is that the longer that they delay by reforming Social Security or by raising taxes or whatever they decide to do, the longer that they wait, the more that they'll have to jack all this up, right? So as a result of that, they'll need to continue raising taxes. They'll need to continue to to boost these the taxes that they're putting on people, as in the employees, employers, things like this. the longer that they wait, just needs to continue to increase it more and more, because now the need for that tax revenue to come in becomes greater and greater, right? So the same thing goes that if they would have addressed this, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that, the raises in taxes and payroll taxes and whatever they would have decided to do would have been less, because now they have more of a runway. The less and less of this time that goes on and the less runway that they have, metaphorically speaking, well, then they got to be more aggressive with raising all of this as well, right? So interesting thing that they pointed out. So anyway, that's what I want to bring to your attention. But they also found as well that if they acted and, if they didn't do anything about this right now, as of 10 years from right now, in the event of insolvency, they would need to reduce benefits by 21.3% for all beneficiaries across the board. So in other words, what that means is if you're currently receiving a $1,000 benefit today, and, well, let's just say a $1,000 benefit at the time of insolvency, a 21.3% reduction to benefits would basically be a reduction of $213 on a $1,000 benefit. So taking your benefit from, say, $1,000, reducing it by $213, which would be, what is the math on that? $787? Yeah, that's a huge reduction, right? So your benefit that was $1,000 would now be $787. Ouch. That's a lot. That's a huge reduction, right? Anyway, I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm just simply telling you, this is the magnitude behind what's actually going on. And this annual report out of the Social Security Board of Trustees that we got, a month and a half or so ago, 2 months ago now, we got that when we got the report out. This is what they're showing. And again, they showed a lot of other statistics as well as what they would need to do to Social Security to make sure that this program remains solvent for many more decades into the future. But this is the reality of what we're dealing with. And remember, this information changes every single year. So interesting stuff. The report that we got last year from the Social Security Board of Trustees was showing they would need to reduce benefits by 23% last year. So now this year, they're looking at like a 22% or so, like a 21.3%, whatever it happens to be. But again, you can clearly see here, these numbers continue to change each and every year. So anyway, interesting, right? Yeah, something we got to continue watching, because as we get closer and closer to potential insolvency date, these numbers will get, skewed quite a bit more. They will continue to change quite a bit the closer and closer we get to that date. Anyway, as I was digging through this, I thought this was actually pretty interesting, and I thought I want to bring this to your attention because, remember, I've said this before in other videos, and I want to say it really again really quickly, which is Congress, they have a one-track mind. What do they think about? Raising taxes. It's like the only thing Congress knows how to do, right? They can't think of anything else because apparently they don't have the ability to be creative. So all they ever think about is, how much are we going to raise taxes, everybody? So that's what they continue to do. So